Hello everyone, in this video we are going to see about the concept of JDBC, Java Database Connectivity. Let us see first of all the definition. JDBC stands for Java Database Connectivity, a standard API, and is the application program interface that provides database independent connectivity between Java applications and a wide range of databases. So we know that database is a collection of tables, and there are different type of databases available, and we are familiar with the Access database and Oracle database, SQL database, and many the applications. So any language communicates, any language programs or applications communicates with the database to get data and process. Here the language is Java, the application is Java, and the database we can use is either SQL or MS Access or anything, any other databases which has the compatibility. And the purpose of this is to allow the Java programs to perform tasks such as connecting to a database, creating and executing SQL statements, and viewing or modifying the resulting records. So we have database, and database has all the data, so we can access those data, we can create and a database, we can access those database through the SQL statements, structured query language statements, and we can also view or we can modify the results. So the architecture of JDBC is it has two primary layers. One is JDBC API, which is the application program interface. This provides the connection from the application to the JDBC manager. So this JDBC manager manages the connection between the application and the database. The second layer is the JDBC driver API. This supports the connection from the JDBC manager to the specific database driver. So this is like a two level. First is application to the JDBC manager, and then from the JDBC manager to the database driver. Okay, so this is the architecture of JDBC, and let us see the different types of driver available. So number one is the type 1 JDBC ODBC. ODBC is open database connectivity. So this translates JDBC calls into ODBC calls. Therefore ODBC is the open database connectivity. It has some set of protocols, and JDBC has its own set of protocols. This bridge, JDBC ODBC bridge, will convert this JDBC into ODBC format. The feature of this is it is not portable, it is slowest and requires the ODBC installation in the client. So in which machine we are using the program, in that program the ODBC should be installed. That is the feature of the type 1 driver. And then type 2 is native API. This converts JDBC calls into native calls to the database API. So here the JDBC calls are converted into native calls, means the different API database sources. So now it has better performance than the type 1. It requires native client libraries on the machine. That means there are some standard built-in libraries to make the connectivity between the database and the application, and that should be available in the machine. Then only this type 2 driver works. And next is the type 3, which is network protocol. This uses the middleware to translate the request to the database. Fully written in Java, which is portable, flexible for multiple databases. So this is the again the advanced version where we can access the multiple databases. And as we know, Java is portable. Portable means we can use the program any system. Once we write it, we convert into Java code, bytecode, then we can use in any machine. So the code becomes portable. So that is the flexibility of the type 3 protocol, which is called network protocol. Okay, and type 4 is the next advanced type, which have a thin driver. So here this communication directly with the database using the Java networking libraries. So Java has a special type of libraries for networking. With that networking libraries, this thin driver, that is the 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 library from the client can connect with the server databases. Okay, so here this it has highest performance, it is platform independent, and no native libraries are required. That means there is no necessity of these built-in libraries to reside inside the client. It's like a thin driver, means that will take care of all the, since they have the network libraries, it will connect to the the application with the databases on its own without need for the libraries to present in the machine. So that's all for the types. Now the JDBC components. JDBC components are: number one, the driver manager. What it does is it manages a list of database drivers and matches the connection between request with the appropriate driver. So here any device has the driver. That means it makes the connection between any two other components. Okay, so that drives the process between the two. That is called as driver manager. And what it does is it manages list of database drivers. We may have different drivers of database, but anything has a driver to drive it. That means to activate it. Likewise, database also has the drivers. So there are many type of database drivers available, and different types of connections is also available. Now this manager work is to communicate or to make the proper communication between the list of database drivers to the appropriate driver to the process. That means it will find out the compatibility, like which database driver has to be chosen and how to make the communication between the database driver and the database. And the connection, next component, an interface representing the communication context. All interaction with the database is through this object. So any connection we create, we first create the database, then we send the data, then we take the data from the database. So all thing is done through the component called connection. So that has to be initially created to start the communication. Then is the statement, the next component. It is used to submit the static SQL statements to the database. So we know that SQL is a structured query language statement that helps to query the database. We are using insert, select, update, and all the statements in the database using the SQL. Okay, so that is called static SQL. So those statements need to be submitted to the connection. So that is done by the statement object. Then result set, an object that holds data retrieved from a database after executing a query. It acts as an iterator to move through data. So here we know that after making the query, we get some result. That result should be stored in a variable. Here it is called as an result set. Okay, so now that answer from the query is stored in a object called result set. From that we can iterate our process through the application. That is the result set. And next is the SQL exception. This one helps to handle any error in the database. The code may be wrong while connection is made, or the query may be wrong while it is executed. So those errors or the exceptions can be handled by the SQL exception. So the JDBC components are driver manager, connection, statement, result set, and SQL exception. And how to establish the connectivity? The steps are: number one, to connect the Java application. Java application is a Java program. Okay, so to the database, the following 5 steps are done. Load the driver. First, anything has to be loaded first to activate. So it is load the driver using the class dot for name. So the driver class name is mentioned by the for name. So driver class name. This helps to dynamically load the driver class. Here example is oracle.jdbc.driver.oracle driver. We have used sun.oldbc.jdbc.jdbc odbc. So different drivers are available. First you have to load it first. Second one is create the connection. Use driver manager.get connection with the URL, username, password to open a communication channel. Only when the communication channel is open, we can pass the data. So to create the connection, we have a next step. driver manager dot get connection. Get connection is the method to get the driver manager in action. Okay, so for that we are, which URL we are using, what is the username, what is the password that has to be given to create the communication channel. And third one is create statement. Call the create statement on the connection object to prepare for query execution. You want to make a query execution, first you got to prepare a statement. So that is done by the call create statement. Okay, and then the fourth step is execute statement. Use execute query statement for select statements or execute update. We use create, insert, update and delete operations. After these operations are update or select statements, so those has to be executed. For that we use the execute query method, then only we can get the result. Then after that everything is done, we are going to close the connection. Always close the connection using the connection dot close to free the resources. This is also automatically closes the statement and the result set object. So once you create the once you load the driver and make the communication and you create the statement, the query get executed, the answer is stored in the result set. Okay, so this result set and the statement should be closed. But if you close the connection, this statement and result set is also automatically closed. Okay, so this is done by the connection dot close. So now we see the what are the operations JDBC supports. So we shortly call this CRUD: create, retrieve, update and delete. So these operations are done through the SQL commands. So JDBC supports all these operations. Okay, so the operations are create, let me know, statement dot execute update. We can create a table, and then insert, it's again an update. So statement dot execute update, the syntax is insert into the database values so and so values. And third is retrieve result set. Once you retrieve means we are going to process the query, so we are using the execute query method. Here you are using the execute update only, here using the execute query. So this executes query like select star from table name, where condition and so on, so and we get some answer from the query that is stored in the object called result set. That is the retrieve. And next one is the update, statement dot execute update. So we can update the database, update any column, set the values where some condition that is given by the update operation. And finally the delete. If you want to delete some records based on some condition, we are using the execute update. Delete from the table where condition satisfies. So we can see in all the 5 operations, this is only the execute, which is the select, others are update, execute, update. Okay, so those actions should be on the statement object. Okay, so these are all the CRUD operations that JDBC supports. And a difference between the statement and the prepared statement. Statement is compiled every time the query runs. When you execute the query, we get the answer, that is the statement. And what is prepared statement is you compile it once, then you reuse. That means you make a statement and keep it as a static. It's a permanent, like it is prepared already, it is not changed. Once you get the prepared statement, you can keep on using it again and again. That is the concept of prepared statement. So that's all the basic about the JDBC, how JDBC connection is done and what are all the objects supported by JDBC. Hope it is easy and simple to follow, and thanks for watching.